When we hear the name Beowulf, we don't think of history, we think of monsters. A shadow moving in the dark, a creature tearing through a hall of warriors, a hero stepping forward, alone. For over 1,000 years, the story of Beowulf has been told as one of humanity's first great epics. A warrior of impossible strength, a man who fought the terrifying Grendel with his bare hands, who descended into a cursed lake to kill Grendel's mother, who, in his final act, faced a dragon and paid the ultimate price. It sounds like pure myth. And yet, the story comes from a real text, an ancient poem known as Beowulf, written sometime between the 8th and 11th centuries. But here is the mystery. The events described in the poem take place centuries earlier, in Scandinavia during the 6th century, which raises a question that refuses to disappear. Was Beowulf just a story, or was he inspired by a real warrior whose deeds became legend? To find Beowulf, we must enter a world without castles, without knights, without kingdoms as we know them. A world of wooden halls, tribal loyalties, and constant danger. The setting of the poem lies in what is now Denmark and southern Sweden. Warrior societies ruled by kings such as Hrothgar. Their power depended not on laws or institutions, but on loyalty. Warriors gathered in great halls, like Hygelac, to feast, drink, and swear allegiance. But these halls were not just places of celebration, they were targets, rival tribes, raiders, betrayal, violence. And beyond the firelight, there was something else, fear of the unknown. In a time where the natural world was poorly understood, danger often took on a different shape: dark forests, deep waters, endless nights. It is in this environment that stories of monsters were born, not necessarily as fantasy, but as explanations. At first glance, Beowulf seems entirely fictional. Monsters, dragons, superhuman strength. But look closer. The poem contains real historical anchors. One of the most important is Hygelac, the king Beowulf serves. Unlike Beowulf, Hygelac appears in multiple historical sources, including Frankish chronicles. He is recorded as a real king who died in a raid around the early 6th century. This is crucial, because it places the world of Beowulf firmly within real history. Other figures, like Hrothgar, may also be based on real rulers remembered through oral tradition. Archaeology adds another layer. Excavations in Scandinavia have uncovered large mead halls, structures similar to Hygelac, where much of the story takes place. These halls were real, they were centers of power, and they were vulnerable. But what about the monsters? Grendel, his mother, the dragon, were they purely symbolic, or could they represent something more grounded? Some historians believe Grendel may represent an outcast, a rival warrior, or even a group attacking under cover of darkness. Others suggest the monsters are manifestations of fear itself, the unknown dangers lurking just beyond the edge of civilization. The dragon? Perhaps a metaphor for greed, destruction, or an unstoppable enemy. But regardless of interpretation, the key point remains. The world of Beowulf is real, which means the hero himself might not be entirely fiction. Strip away the monsters. Remove the supernatural. What remains? A warrior. If Beowulf existed, he was likely a Geatish fighter from southern Sweden, a member of an elite warband, strong, disciplined, loyal, not invincible, but exceptional. He would have trained from a young age, fighting with sword, spear, and shield, sleeping in longhouses, living in a culture where honor meant everything. His journey to help Hrothgar may reflect real alliances between tribes. Warriors often traveled across regions to gain fame, wealth, and reputation. His battle with Grendel, perhaps a symbolic retelling of defeating a powerful enemy threatening a kingdom. His descent into the lake, a poetic exaggeration of a dangerous mission into hostile territory. And the dragon, possibly his final stand against overwhelming odds. In the poem, Beowulf becomes king later in life, and as an aging ruler, he faces one last threat. He defeats the dragon, but dies from his wounds. This detail matters, because unlike many myths, Beowulf does not end in triumph, he ends in sacrifice, and that makes him feel real. So how does a warrior become a monster-slaying legend? The answer is the same as with Arthur and Ragnar: time, storytelling, memory. The story of Beowulf was passed down orally for generations. Each retelling added detail, emotion, symbolism. By the time it was written down in Beowulf, it was no longer just history, it was myth. But myth does not erase truth, it preserves it, in a different form. Beowulf represents something universal: the fight against chaos, the courage to face the unknown, the inevitability of death, and perhaps most importantly, the idea that a person's legacy is not measured by how long they live, but by what they are willing to face. Even today, over 1,000 years later, the story endures. Not because we believe in monsters, but because we recognize the fear they represent and the courage it takes to confront them. Beowulf may not have torn a creature apart with his bare hands, but somewhere in the dark age world of warriors and kings, there may have been a man strong enough, brave enough, to inspire one of the greatest legends ever told. This is Beowulf, not just a myth, but a memory of courage, revived. Want to see more historical legends reborn with modern AI? Subscribe and join us as we bring the past back to life. Who should we revive next? Let us know in the comments.